clear. I'll try to summarize a little bit of what we did. So what's typical is that ASHRAE will deal with electrical energy issues, and you can see here on their site, and I'm just going to go through a few of them. 91 usually is the one that it's their marquee, I'll call it their market leader, and you can see in here, looks like here's another statement about interior lighting controls. So I put that on our home site here just so electrical engineers would know. I only got to a few of them. But those who have the time and those who have the time to go through them are welcome to either submit comments of their own, or I think I have we could talk about them at the next session. Of course, some of them are already going to expire. The time frame, for example, we have until April 12th to deal with all of these, and it seems to me there's like 10 or 15 there we have to deal with, and some of them will be electrical. There's also other standards here. Oh, here's a new one that's come through. And then, of course, they get into ventilation of healthcare facilities. They get into data, ICT, for protocol for building automation control networks. It looks to me like so here's one from 189, and let's see what this has to say to us. Is this electrical in nature? This will be my first time through on this one. Okay, so it looks like, to me, it strikes me that ASHRAE making a statement about peak demand reduction. Do they mean that this is the ICT systems for controlling demand, whether it is HVAC or electrical? Of course, usually they're convergent. Or is this something else? So I don't know. I've talked a bit here, guys. What are your thoughts about this? So this is one where ASHRAE 189.9 is saying that building projects shall contain automatic control systems. Did you guys have thoughts, Lauren, Tim?
Well, of course, we're doing more and more with lighting controls, and I was just looking over some literature from Honeywell, because I'm having trouble finding a lighting control system that I think works well for us in terms of us actually being able to know what's going on and then manipulate the programming, especially when things programming gets altered for one reason or another, or they need it changed. And I'm seeing that same kind of thing in that literature talking about the peak demand, and I'm wondering how this is all going to come together. I'm having enough problems with lighting control as it is, and I just see this as a potential greater problem for us.
Have you ever keyed in a comment on a standard to ASHRAE?
I have not.
Oh, I can. It's actually 3 minutes. I'm gonna possibly bore Lauren here and show you how your average bear can do it. And since this is being recorded, I want to make sure that you guys see it. It's easy as pie. So you can see that I'm fairly, how would I say, well written in this standard suite, and you can see all the stuff that I submit to them. So all you have to really do here. So if we were to go to online public review drafts, and I forgot, I think that was 189 we were dealing with, and let's go down to where it's at, and I think it's called Addendum B, but what I want to do is actually comment on Addendum B. Addendum B. So what you do is this, and it should come up, and you install your comments, and they'll say something like, Mr. Mike Anthony, and then you say you are who you are, and then now here's where you can complain. And so you'll just say WTF or something like that, or it's more proper to say something like that, right? And then and you'll say it's substantive, and then you'll say it's a clause, and then you'll come over here. So this is kind of, I'm not going to go all the way with it. I'll save it as a draft. In light of the fact that we've got, we have some limited time, I actually have to get back to the conference room. Oh, Lauren, I didn't tell you that there was a bit of a Wi-Fi crisis at the Corning headquarters, and that's why I couldn't do the morning session. And I have a small period of time here at the hotel. Fortunately, the hotel and the conference are like a mile away from each other, so I do have to get back. So anyway, I'll save this as a draft. And it's kind of just that easy, guys. So I have a dedicated session we call a markup sessions, and I think I have one set up for that one next week. And so the general markup session, yeah, it's right here. It's at 2 o'clock, and this is where we can. So if you want to look those over, you want to join this one, just send me an email. And you can join that one, and we can mark these things up. And ultimately, it always comes down to how much you put back at the committee. And you can see that I've had some success. I consider 10% success, at least in my world. So you can see most of them are typically rejected. Resolved is the politically correct word for rejected. And I don't complain. There are a few here that I got. Look here, accepted. So when you get some accepted, it's rather remarkable, actually. They'll propose something with no technical substantiation, and you call them out on it, and then they'll say, okay, you were right, and they'll say you were right with no technical substantiation. So basically that's what's called, we call it market making. This is America. People are allowed to do this. And you may find interesting, since you mentioned energy management, Tim, is that we have a pretty sharp guy here who works for you now who's done a fair amount on building automation and controls. His name's Dave Anderson, and he does some really cool stuff here. So he actually did a little subroutine for a wet bulb temperature, and I'll be darned, you can't even get 67 people to show up at some of these conferences. So he just did this on February 9th, and he came up with a neat little subroutine about how to start and stop large chillers using this little subroutine that he did by hand. He did another one on the ASHRAE suite. I like to use this one as an example. It's ASHRAE 13. They wanted to put buildings temperature control sensors on every building. Now U of M has about 150 buildings, and to do that would have cost us well over $500,000, not to mention the running costs. So we managed to, using that process I just showed you, to basically argue against temperature control sensors on every building. And every time I look at this, I'm amazed by it. It would have been a very capital intensive enterprise. They're about $5,000 per building for us. So long story short, we do have a fair number of ASHRAE oriented videos, and now that I've got Dave working for me, you'll probably see more. ASHRAE is a very well-developed standards development organization, and they're among the best. So I'd encourage you, if you want to look through it here, and please feel free to call me at any time, or I can refer you to David or some of the other guys that I have helping me out now, and maybe we can help you. Since you're on the phone, guys, and we are coming on at time, there's two things I wanted to do. One is you could tell me a little bit about your university there, Tim, and also, Lauren, you can acquaint yourself with Lauren, and then we can run through what the next couple weeks might look like. So if you don't mind, Lauren, could you tell Tim a little bit about what you do? And I'm hoping that he might be able to hear you.
Okay, so I'm Lauren Clark. I'm with the University of Alberta up in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Got about 100 buildings. I can't remember how many hectares of land, but quite a bit. We run our own district energy system, so we have a heating plant that produces steam for all the buildings on campus. We have 2 cooling plants and a thermal energy storage tank that do chilled water for all of North Campus. We have land holdings apart from North Campus, but my predominant role is around North Campus and renovation, additions to electrical systems for new building construction or building renewals, as well as any kind of changes in the plants themselves. That's it real fast.
Okay, so while you do that, Tim, you want to tell him what you do there in New Hampshire?
Well, I'm at Keene State College.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're a small, largely undergrad institution. We've got about 5,000 undergrads, and 150-acre campus. 50 acres is the main campus. The other 100 is the athletic complex, which is unfortunately for our teams largely swamped. But I'm the electrical shop supervisor, so I'm responsible for supervising the 4 staff electricians that we have, covering 1.7 million square feet of building space. And I also have responsibility for fire alarm systems, elevators, dock lifts. I'm the primary contact for our property insurance carrier, FM Global. And, you know, we end up, right now we're preparing to build a new residence hall, and supervisors of the trades are all involved with some of the plans review to hopefully make sure we get something that we can maintain down the road. I've been here for 12 years now, became supervisor about a year and a half ago, and I did the APA Institute for Facilities Management, which was excellent for me, and got my EFP. So this has been a good place for me. It's been a good fit.
So it looks like you're west of Manchester here, and I see, you know, it's a fair-sized campus. It looks like, do you have a district energy system?
We have a central heating plant, so we distribute steam to most, but not all of our buildings. There's been talk about doing, you know, district chilled water, but that's been nothing more than an idea that's sort of floated. And we have an underground 12470 campus electrical loop with loop-fed transformers, and we're getting rid of one of the few non-loop-fed transformers when we do this new residence hall, you know, giving us a little more flexibility than we've had in that one area of campus.
Mm-hmm. Well, just curious, are your architect engineers, are they specifying aluminum feeders yet?
I'm sorry, I couldn't pick up part of that.
Are they specifying aluminum feeders yet?
I don't know what they expect for this building yet. Typically it has been copper.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the issues that I've dealt with over a number of years here. I'm responsible, co-responsible, working to get Annex I put in the 2014 NEC, and that gave the correct torquing requirements for aluminum feeders. So we did that, and then just you'll find out in 2017, again, I was working with a colleague, Crystal Hunter, on getting section 110.5 changed, so you'll see a positive statement that the code permits copper and aluminum. Right now, if you go to 110.5, you'll see that it just says a copper. So,
okay.
And then you go to section 310 and you'll see copper and aluminum ampacities put in there. Well, what's all that about? Well, it just has to be the history and the push and pull between the Copper Development Association and the Aluminum Institute and other people who had other things to deal with. But I will tell you that we are saving significantly on our feeders at University of Michigan. You can go into the, if you go over in here to our, somewhere down here there's something on aluminum wiring, and you'll see that it's 2/3 off your wiring cost.
Yeah.
Does that interest you at all?
It does. Whether or not I can talk other people into it, that might be the other thing. But you know, little by little, gather some information.
Right. We think we could actually take out all references to copper in the NEC. Just completely ban copper as allowable material in the NEC, and they would still put in copper. It's just a cultural thing. There was a bad situation back in the 70s and 80s where branch feeders only,
Yep.
you know, outlets, power outlets, they had a bad match between the material expansion ratios, and it caused some fires, and that meant that everything 100 amps and above had the same phenomena. Well, it never did. It never did. Feeders are very often warm in any way, but in any case, so the whole industry, we can't stop people from spending 2/3 more on their wiring than, but I'll just say to you, in all of our dorms for the past, say the better part of 10 years now, U of M has been specifying aluminum. And in the case of our football stadium, it was about $800,000 savings. Cost reduction.
Yeah, that's substantial.
Right. Yeah. So all our children's hospital was done that way. And again, if you go to that particular clip, you'll see it. So it's just a matter of getting your consultants acclimated to all that. So, and of course, are you putting timers on every other outlet in your building now, as Ashray wants?
No. There was discussion about whether or not to do that on some of the outlets in the new residence hall, but it's not mandated yet, so we haven't gone there. And the thing that I've heard they found is really just, or what people have seen is that students will say, oh sure, we're in favor of it because it saves energy, and then they'll make sure that everything is plugged into the ones that are not timed.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's a problem. We actually, if you go to our website, and I have to, again, credit my colleague, David Handwork, who I collaborated with on this one, had to do with, we managed, let's see if I can get this thing to come up here. Somewhere in this table here, you will see that we were able to roll back that requirement for dormitories and for classrooms. There are two reasons for that. The dormitories, you either put in, the consultants would be tempted to put in twice as many outlets, or the students were going to use extension cords anyway, and we felt that there was not much net there. Remember, in the education industry, we design around commercial occupancies, at least above K-12 in colleges and universities. There's data out there, and I'm going to pull it up to show that they are actually 20% occupied. I'll say that again. The square footages in higher education are only 20% occupied. So why would you put them in a classroom when the students are already using laptops that are charged for 4 to 6 hours at a time? Well, I'll tell you why you do that. You do that when you want to make a market. And I don't say there's not a place for them, but certainly I don't want to see them in my industry because we think that they're a waste given all the other alternatives that we have. Has any of that thinking reached Canada, Lauren?
Not that I'm aware of, actually. It's kind of the first that I'm hearing of it, actually, right now.
Could you say that one more time, Lauren?
No, the thinking has not come here. This is actually the first that I'm hearing about, a push for timer circuits for energy conservation. Yeah,
well, that's, believe me, we have, and I don't mind saying this on a tape recording, we understand that we all want safety. We all want a greener planet, but we also have other alternatives. So the kind way I have to say that is simply that it's market making. They have their place, but we think it's limited for our industry, and we tend to want to leave it there. But they will be back. They will not go away. As surely as we were able to get those temperature sensors off the top of every building, they will be back a year from now, maybe 2 years from now. We won't be looking behind our back, and suddenly we'll start to see something creeped in, and the states will assume that because it's in the national standard that it is something that's come down from the mountaintop from Moses. So that's what we deal with, and that happens pretty much on an hourly basis. That's just always going on. So, hey, look, guys, I actually have to get back to that meeting. I wish that we'll get your sound fixed next time, Tim. I hope you can call in, and it might be a little bit easier for us to communicate. We are here every other week. We also have one with Europe. We're trying to bring some of the European wiring standards into the United States. So I'll get this fixed for next week. oops, I'm running out of power, as you can see. Calgary, we're meeting there. Hopefully I'll see Lauren there. And that's kind of all the time I have time for. I'll be logging on more blog posts. As you can see here, I started this. I will also put it out there. I don't mind giving anybody else a password to start logging in. If you have any facility at all, WordPress, I could easily put 10 issues a day on our blog here. And then I'm hiring staff that's going to be able to do some of that. But ultimately, I'm not really as much in the information conveyance industry as I am somebody who's trying to focus my effort on actually writing things down and getting in front of the committees, flying to the committees, strong-arming people into voting our way, and making them stick and making it deliver value. And as I like to say, this is what we do.
Mike?
Yeah.
Just before you log off, did you get my email about a possible U of A tour for the U of C or the Calgary IEEE in about a month?
Let's see. Did you send that to me?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
I'm just thinking you're a stone's throw away from Edmonton. And logistically it's going to be a bit of a hassle, but we could possibly work something out for just before or just after the conference.
Oh, excellent. Okay. I'm very glad to hear this. Okay. I'm just behind on my email. Sorry. Okay. All right. So when is our next meeting here? In a couple of weeks, guys. And again, if it just happens to be a week, it took 9 hours to drive here from Ann Arbor. There's no airfare that I can really put through on a public bill, so we had to drive out here. It's the middle of nowhere, and that's why I've just gobbled up 2 full days of travel. So, all right, I'll see you in a couple weeks, guys, and if not before on the Worldwide Intertubes. Lauren, I'll give you a call early next week to go through some of the specifics of that tour.
Sounds good.
Yeah, great. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye.